So our next presenter is Juergen Puetter, and who's the CEO of Renewable Hydrogen Canada, and has a distinguished career in converting innovative concepts into successful businesses. In 1977, he started Bionaire, an indoor environmental control products, and took the company public in 1984. He served as president until 1992, when he moved to the West Coast to start Hydroxyl Systems, which is a water and wastewater treatment company, which he ran as president in 2003. In 2003, he founded Aeolis Wind Power, and he continues to run it as president. In 2008, he founded Blue Fuel Energy to produce low-cost carbon and renewable liquid fuels. 2008, the government of Canada appointed Juergen to serve as the chair of a Sustainable Development Technology Canada, which he did in 2013. Juergen then was appointed by the Premier of BC to serve in the Muskaw Kechika Advisory Board as director. In 2012, Juergen founded the Canadian Methanol Corporation to take advantage of Canada's abundant natural gas and renewable energy resources as BC's strategic location as a supplier of a global supplier of methanol. In 2018, he founded Renewable Hydrogen Canada to use low-cost wind energy from Aeolis Wind to produce renewable hydrogen on a globally significant scale. He's been at a lot of things that are very complementary to each other. So here we are. Here's Juergen.
Great, Paul. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to address everybody. The focus of what we're doing is quite different from what we've seen so far. We're not on the technology side. We believe that the key element to adopt hydrogen in a major way in our society is to reduce the cost. Right now, hydrogen is very expensive. And if you look at the cost breakdown of how hydrogen is made, and again, I'm talking here about green renewable hydrogen, 75%, maybe even as high as 80% of the cost of hydrogen is cost of electricity. So if you optimize at 25% with better electrolyzers, so you have certainly a gain that's positive. But the big bang for the buck, so to speak, is on the energy side. And it's fortunate that we have here in British Columbia a very large resource of high quality wind. We have some wind farms running that have a net capacity factor over 50% at the grid interface, which is very much unlike anything else you'd find in the rest of Canada. And that allows us to produce high electricity at a cost that is very low, lower than BC Hydro. And the idea here is that we're doing large-scale hydrogen for two markets. The first one is where we partnered with Fortis. I'll put up a little screen share that will show, hopefully, a diagram of the whole thing. I don't know if it's coming up. It says share, here we go. This diagram gives sort of an overview of what we're doing in the northeast of BC. You will see in the top left, Aeolis Wind and BC Hydro. There's hydro and wind and solar energy going into a large-scale electrolysis plant. The first one up there will be 150 megawatt to then introduce hydrogen into the gas grid. It's currently owned by Enbridge. We're working with Enbridge and with Fortis, who's the end user, and the US utilities downstream in Washington State and Oregon to enable the introduction of hydrogen. So that's really right now the limiting factor in that project. An attractive sideline is that we're taking the waste energy from electrolysis and generating hot water that we use to heat large-scale greenhouses for organic produce with First Nations. Several hundred employees come out of that. That's under the Sundance Produce label. The latest new addition to our series of projects is that we will be announcing very shortly a project that will be called Pacific Hydrogen Canada. It's a deep water port on the coast of BC where we'll have availability of energy ultimately as high as 1,000 megawatt. We're starting out with a 200 megawatt confirmed and committed hydro, wind, with on-site storage that allows us to produce hydrogen at extremely low cost and very low CI. It will then either be shipped in compressed form by barges to the lower mainland BC and then down Puget Sound, and as liquid hydrogen for offshore markets in California. And we see further in the future, you see it on the top line, as another way of exporting it is to turn it into methanol by using renewable CO2 captured from a variety of sources we have available in BC, and then converting the hydrogen into methanol, which is a liquid at room temperature and very easy to store and transport. And it can always be reformed back into hydrogen at the other end, and it doesn't have the storage problems that compressed or liquid hydrogen have. So that's the overall picture. Aeolis Wind is a company that has close to 2,500 megawatt of ready to develop wind resources. We're partnered with a number of interesting entities, Borlex, Brookfield, Fortis, Macquarie out of Australia. So we've put together a consortium. These projects, as you can imagine, are very large. We're not suffering from problems with water. Water is readily available, the energy is available, and the market is growing. So that's the overall picture of what we're doing, hoping to get to attractive market conditions. Right now, we are certain that we can produce hydrogen at our deepwater port for shipping at around $3.50 US a kilogram today, with a tendency that could go considerably lower. And by the time we're liquid hydrogen, we're about $5.50 a kilogram. So those are very attractive numbers with a carbon intensity of 9 grams per megajoule, per megawatt hour, which is extraordinarily low. And we think that's going to help raise the adoption of hydrogen, because it's all the biggest problem we see in hydrogen is cost. The technology for fuel cells and electric motors and all that, that's all well known. The real issue is the cost of hydrogen, and we hope to be able to make a quantum leap in this in the near term. And we hope that this project will be operational within 2 years.
Very good. Impressive, Juergen. So thank you. And what's your thoughts on what is needed to get the hydrogen economy really get moving in Canada?
Well, I see 2 steps. One of them is to enable the injection of hydrogen in the gas grid, because the moment you've taken electricity and converted it to hydrogen, you've solved 2 problems, storage and transmission in one. Electricity is produced and has to be instantaneously consumed as you produce it, because we have an alternating current system. The moment you make hydrogen out of electricity, you can now store it and transport it. And the pipeline infrastructure is ideal for that. And what is also probably surprising to many, it is cheaper to transport hydrogen in a pipeline than to send the equivalent amount of energy in wires down long distances. So you have simultaneously storage and transmission in a pipeline system, while in an electric system, you have only transmission. So that's a huge advantage, and there's an existing gas system. So the missing part right now is a regulatory confirmation that you can inject hydrogen into the gas grid. Enbridge just did a small demonstration project in Markham. I think there's 3,500 participants in it. It's on a distribution level. It's still very small. Similar things have been done for many years in Europe. So it's really nothing too new there, but it's great that it's finally done in Canada. But to move the needle, we need to do it in the transmission system, in the large one. To put it in perspective, the 150 megawatt we'd be putting in at Sundance Hydrogen in the Peace region would only increase the hydrogen intensity in the natural gas by 2%. So 150 megawatt is a large amount of electrolysis power. And yet that amount of 65 tons of hydrogen roughly, that only amounts to 2% because of such large flow. So it's an ideal combination. And this also ties in with the fact that cities like Vancouver want to become very green, and this allow the use of fossil-based gas. But they've got to be careful what they wish for. If they turn all the gas system off, the best battery and storage capacity that exists there is then taken away. So it's important to introduce as much hydrogen to the grid quickly. And I think by lowering the costs as we are doing that currently, we'll hope to hasten that process.
Okay, that's very good. So thank you very much.